Hello, my name is Jenn and welcome to the book Refuge. Today I'm doing my May wrap-up video. I'm in a little bit different of a scene, don't mind me, but my back is actually hurting pretty bad today, so I wanted to sit on my comfortable couch. But anyway, don't worry about that. I am totally fine. I just am resting it. So anyway, like I said, let's do my May wrap-up. I am super excited about this. I read 14 books this month. Again, I'm so impressed with myself, not to humble brag or anything, but being on Booktube has been so good for me so far because I'm just constantly pushing through books. So yeah, I did 13 real books. Sorry, the other one's a real book, but one of them I listened to on audio. So I totally feel like that's a valid way to read books. I'm not hating on it. I listen to audiobooks as much as I listen to regular books. But yeah, I'm super excited to go through these. I read some great books this month, and again, they were books that I wasn't necessarily expecting to read. And just through getting suggestions from other people on Booktube, from getting the Owl Crate, things like that, I've really been pushed to read different things. So I'm really excited to talk about some of them with you. So let's dive in. The first one, I will put a picture up here, is XOXO, which you guys have been so supportive of that review. I gave it 5 stars. Currently, one of my best friends is reading it. So, I'll have the picture up beside my face here. I gave this 5 stars, and there's been a bit of a backlash against XOXO, and I've watched tons of reviews. I respect everyone and their opinions, and I agree with almost all of the critiques about the novel. It's just, for me, it was what I wanted, and I knew that it was a stepping stone and that it would be a lot of that she wasn't going to get into anything heavily plot related. So I guess for me, I was fully aware of what I would be getting out of that novel, so it didn't bother me as much as it bothered some other people. And the other thing too is people are like, it was just a cash grab to get whatever, and maybe that's true, but also, guys, I spend hundreds of dollars on books a month, and I know not everybody can do that. So when a book comes out and they really get pushed to buy it and they feel that they're told that it's integral to the series and then it's not, I can see how that could cause some hurt feelings or whatever. But I'm not turning this into an apologetics for XOXO, but I stand by what my rating was because it was everything that I wanted, and it just got me even more excited for more of Sarah's books. I'm so excited that she's writing an adult series, which practically the last few books she's written have been anyway, so I'm so excited for that. But anyway, that was the first book I read, and I gave it 5 stars, and I really do suggest you pick it up if you love her other books, and just be aware that it is not essential to pushing the story forward. And when she writes the next book, most of what happened in here could have been described in a couple flashbacks or talked about, and you would know exactly what happened. So that is true. All right. The next 3 books I read were the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Lonnie Taylor. So it's Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Days of Blood and Starlight, and Dreams of Gods and Monsters. I really did devour these 3 books, but I did give them lesser ratings as they went along. This book was 5 stars for me. I thought the mystery in it was so cool. I had no idea what was going on. I've never read a book quite like this before. It had angel mythology, Bible mythology, chimera mythology, all these things mixed together, and I did not know what it was leading to, and so I loved it. Absolutely loved this book. But Days of Blood and Starlight I gave 4 stars, and Dreams of Gods and Monsters I gave 3.5 stars, because for me, I didn't like the story that was being told, and all of these are my personal opinions, but especially the 3rd book, I felt, which was the biggest book of them all by far, but I felt that book should have been split into 2 stories, because the culmination of this trilogy takes place and ends with 150 pages left of that novel. And then there's this whole other plot that is just shoved into the last 150 pages really aggressively. It was a good story, but it needed its own book. And so for that, like, it just got worse for me. But I love the journey that Karou goes on, how she grows and learns to forgive and like goes about finding herself. And I love Akiva, whatever people call him. I thought he had tremendous character growth too. Like, just the character growth and changing in these novels was really great. So much so that I'm really excited to read more by Lonnie Taylor. This is the first I ever read of her. And I have Strange the Dreamer was in my last book haul, I'm sure you saw, and I can't wait to dive into that because the next one comes out soon. So anyway, I read this trilogy. I gave them 5 stars, 4 stars, and 3.5 stars on Goodreads just because I was a little let down by how it ended, but I so enjoyed this book, and I would reread them again just to have this book. So, next book I read this month was Brightly Burning by Alexa Dawn. I have a full review for this one. I enjoyed this a lot. This was a 4.5 star read for me. This book is a Jane Eyre retelling, but set in the future in space, and Jane Eyre's name is, I just forgot what her name was. Stella Ainsley is the name of the main character, and then they have Hugo Fairfax is the representation of Mr. Rochester. I love Jane Eyre. I thought this was a great retelling. I love that the mystery was a little bit different, so you didn't exactly know what to expect, because that's one of the problems with retellings of stories, is if they don't mix it up in a good way. I mean, you're really only along for this side-by-side comparison, and I thought she did a really great job of bringing up new things and making me rethink old stories. So I really enjoyed this book. If you love Jane Eyre, if you love space, if you love fantasy, if you don't love Jane Eyre, I think this is a great book because although it heavily follows it, it tells new story for the most part. So I think you could still like it if you've never read Jane Eyre, or maybe you're not a fan of it. So I really like this book. The book I read this month is what I listened to on audio. And that was The Chemist by Stephenie Meyer. I had only read this book once previously when it first just came out, and it was a different change of pace at that time. So I really wanted, when I was picking out my audiobook for the month, I wanted to pick something I'd read before because I was really distracted this month with just some different things in my life, as well as the other new books I was trying to get to. And if an audiobook is one that I have listened to before, I'm gonna put this down because it's really shiny. I will sometimes want to listen to that more than read my other books. And I want my audiobooks to just kind of be something to fill in time when I'm like cooking or driving to work or organizing. Like, I just like to have something to listen to that I like know where it's going. I actually forgot so much that happened in this book. Besides remembering who the characters were and like what the outcome was, I forgot like everything in the middle. So if you've never heard of The Chemist, it's about this woman named Juliana, and she worked for a secret part of the government that's just called the department, and her job was to help interrogate terrorists as well as other threats, both foreign and domestic, to the United States. But her department was a secret, and when some political things happen, they come after her and try to kill her. But they, of course, are getting in for more than they bargained for because she's good at what she does and she's able to escape and she's living on the run. But she's tired of living on the run, so when they offer her a chance to get back in their good graces, she foolishly goes for it. And in that time, she gets brought into contact with these two brothers named Kevin and Daniel, and they go about trying to survive the government together. And it was just really great. It was a little bit of Stephenie Meyer took a lot of stuff from like Aaron Cross and Jason Bourne, like that kind of theme of like the government has wronged you, and you know, you're trying to get just trying to live, basically. Not even that she wants revenge, but just that she wants them to leave her alone so she can live. And I thought the story was really clever. There's also an element of, man, I read a lot of books this month like that, where pets are very important. And one of the characters in the novel, Kevin, he trains tactical dogs, and I love animals. I've been raised around horses and dogs and cows and goats my entire life, and so whenever a character has a really strong connection with the pet, it like instantly makes me like so there's some really smart dogs he works with, and I love them. That was such a cool aspect of the novel that I wasn't expecting, and I just loved it. So anyway, I gave this novel, what I gave it? I gave this 4.5 stars. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, like I will buy anything Stephenie Meyer writes. Twilight got me into almost everything I read now is because of those novels. And I just wish she would write more. Like, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that she doesn't write more. She does a lot. But I heard that The Chemist is going to be made into a TV show. I hope that that's true. I hope that it's good, because this is a really great book. And it does kind of fit into a lot of other shows I've seen on TV recently, previously. So I don't know. I would definitely want to see it. So, yep, The Chemist got 4.5 stars from me, and don't let Stephenie Meyer's name fool you. If you're someone who hates on her, this book is very good. There are no aspects of Twilight or anything fantasy in it. It's just a good, like, kind of FBI thriller, but it's not the FBI. It's a different department, but it feels like FBI kind of thing, and it was totally worth it. So next up was my all crate for April, Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. This novel is sold as a cross between Six of Crows and House of the Rising Sun, which is like a gambling and like Las Vegas type of vibe. I gave this book 3.5 stars. I didn't like it very much. However, by the end of it, like, how do I even word this? This is why I don't have a really good review up on Goodreads for this, because it was really hard for me to explain how I felt. I think a lot of it comes down to disappointment because of what they said it's crossed with. And the other part is I didn't like the characters. I didn't like Levi. And that's really what it comes to. And he's sold as this like Kaz Brekker character, and he just wasn't to me. And I didn't like him, and I didn't have any sympathy for him. And I didn't like, well, and the thing is I did like N Salta. And I liked the journey she's going on, but they just kept trying to force her and Levi together, and I just don't get it. And the whole story, like, this isn't a spoiler because it's set up in the very beginning of it. The whole story takes place over 10 days in this novel. And like immediately they're attracted to each other. Immediately they start saying, I could never like someone like him, and blah, blah, blah. And there's this background story that's happening that has to do with what the past of N's guardian, and like I wanted to read that story. Like, that is the novel I want. I hope in the next story she tells us more about the generation that came before them, because that's where the interest is for me. Also, it was really confusing because everybody has these special abilities, but it's not explained how they get them, or which ability is from your father and which ability is from your mother, because everybody gets an ability from your father and your mother, and it's not explained how it works. And I just don't get it. I kept waiting to get it, and I didn't get it, and I don't like that. And I just pushed through it though, because there was so much hype and I wanted to love it. And so I gave it a 3.5 because, like, for me, anything that's a 2 or less, I won't read anything else by this author. I know that's awful. I'm just telling you, like, I wouldn't read the next one. I gave it a 3.5 because maybe it's just first book itis and she had a lot of world building to do. And maybe I'll love the second one. I don't know. I'm willing to try it for the sake of, there was a lot of interesting threads laid down, but I don't like Levi, and I'm really having trouble having to spend half of the book in his head when I don't like him. And I have sympathy for her and the situation she's in, and I want things to work out for her and her guardian, so I'm willing to read it for N's sake. But Levi, I don't care. Like, if he ends up dead, I wouldn't cry about it. After by Anna Todd. These are books, I read all 5 of this book which is after we collided, after we fell, after ever happy, and before, which is after from Hardin's point of view, but only select parts of it. I did a whole 20-minute video in my defense of this series because I gave every one of these a 4-star review. I love this series. If for some reason you don't know, it's One Direction fan fiction written by Anna Todd on Wattpad, and then all of the books were picked up by Gallery Books. And there's a movie going to be coming out next year. And I don't know, I explain it really good in my video, so I'm gonna plug that so you'll check it out, because I had some wine, talked about why I like this, even though it's basically smutty trash, why I gave it 4 stars, and what it means to me. But also, I'll just say that if you know what you're getting from these books, they're good books. If you go in expecting more from them than they have, then yeah, you're gonna hate it and you're gonna give it 1 star and be like, oh my God, why did Jen tell me to read this? Well, if you watch my review, you'll see why. And to me, there's some legitimate reasons to give these books a chance. So that's all I'll say. But yeah, I read 5 of the books I read this month were these ones. And yeah. Next book I read was Onyx and Ivory by Mindy Arnett. This book was so good. This was a 5-star read for me. I also have a review for this one, which you can check out in my cards. I gave this book a 5-star. I cannot wait for the next one. I think it was such a cool start to a fantasy story. My review, I break it down better. One of the things I forgot to mention in my review though, and this goes back to what I was saying about The Chemist, is the main character in this novel, she has an affinity for the minds of animals. She can influence them and speak to animals, and they can't really communicate back, but she can sense what they're feeling and thinking and stuff. And horses play such a huge part of this novel because that's what she was raised around and what she was trained with. And her horses and other people's horses, they're very important to this. And again, like I said earlier, I was raised around horses and animals, and this was one of the few examples. I've read a few other ones where they're good about the animals in it as well, where I feel that the author had a good idea of how things are when you really care about animals and how you take care of them so that they can take care of you. And I think that's awesome. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars. Check out my review if you want to know more, but I cannot wait for the next one. And I want to read everything that Mindy Arnett has written as well. And I just can't wait. I love the characters in this novel too. And lastly, but not leastly, is the book I just finished last night. And that is Zero Repeat Forever, and this is by Gabrielle Prendergast. I bought this book 7 months ago in a sale at Barnes & Noble, and it was just in my stack of books forever. And recently I started a TBR jar because I saw another booktuber who did that, and I thought it was a great thing to do with all my books that have just been piling up for years, really. I have 140 books in the jar, and so I have certain books every month that I need to read, but for the other books I read, I'm trying to pull them out of my TBR jar just to get through a lot of the books I've had for a really long time. So this book is just from last year though, and it's so interesting because it's kind of a post-apocalyptic novel. There's been an invasion by these aliens that are called Nax, Nahx, and they have taken over and they're killing humans and taking over the world. And this story is told from the point of view of a girl named Raven, who her boyfriend and her boyfriend's twin brother got sent to this camp to be camp counselors. Because it's kind of funny, they'd gotten in some trouble, and so they send them to be camp counselors for kids. But they were working at this camp when it happens. So they're kind of out in the wilderness. So for the most part, they're protected from what's going on. And then things start to go downhill. And so these kids ranging from the age of 16 to 25 is the oldest people that are there, have been hiding out in this camp trying to survive. And so one of the Raven, when her boyfriend dies, her and her brother's twin decide that they want to go on a revenge mission and kill as many of the aliens as they can. The other point of view in this novel is one of the Knacks, and his name is Eighth, because you're named by the cycle of the moon that you were born on. So everyone born during a certain month would be, if you're all born in January, you're a first, and February is like, so it goes all the way to 12th. And his partner is killed by one of the humans, and so he also goes on a revenge mission, but then he ends up falling in love with Raven. Instead of wanting to kill her, he starts following her and has these feelings for her, and certain things happen from there. I don't want to give it away because I had no idea what this was, but it's this weird like post-apocalyptic, as well as like Invasion of the Body Snatchers vibes as well. Just really cool. And so I'm actually like dying because the author, this is the first in a series, but the author hasn't even announced when the next book is coming out. And I'm panicking a little bit that like, did not enough people read it? Did not enough people know about this? Is she gonna tell me more? Because it ends on the biggest cliffhanger ever, and I'm dying. Like, I finished this last night and I'm just like, she hasn't even announced it. Like, is it coming out this year? Is it coming out in 2 years, 5? What's happening? Because it was crazy. So I didn't do a full review on this because it's just really complicated to explain, but it was really good. The character development is amazing. The reason why it's called Zero Repeat Forever is super cool. One other thing about this, to maybe give you an incentive, the Knacks, so that's the alien people, they use a form of sign language because they're not able to speak, because Earth's atmosphere is the wrong type for them. So they have these like tubes in their mouth keeping everything regulated, and so they use sign language, and that's a cool aspect to it. Some of the signs are legitimate and some of them are their own versions of signs, so you know, it's not exactly going to be accurate to like ASL or anything, but I thought it was really cool when that's the main way that these two characters communicate, is through sign. I love whenever there's aspects of sign language and stuff. So anyway, this was the last book that I read this month, and it was awesome. So I give this 4 stars, and I cannot wait for the next one to come out. I gave it 4 because it was a very slow start. Like the main part of the action doesn't start until halfway through. I was interested because the characters were so good, like I said, but if I'm being honest, like it was probably only a 4-star for me, but I fully expect the next book to be a 5-star because now I know who these characters are and what's happening. So yeah, check this out. So yeah, that is my May wrap-up video. 14 books this month. Yeah, it was so exciting. Keep a lookout. I'm going to put up my June to be read. I'm finally doing a TBR video. I'll probably look a lot like this because I'm going to film that one next. But yeah, so thanks as always for checking it out. Tell me if you've read any of these, what you thought about any of them, if you think I was too harsh about any of them, or if you have any thoughts. That's what I'm here for, is to talk about it. So thanks. I hope you have a great day, and peace and blessings. Bye.